pay for the franchise fees. We will produce the artifacts, the pasta casts to show that dinosaurs exist. That's one of the sidelines. The bankers, the museum will say, how much money can we make by discovering dinosaurs? Which, by the way, were only discovered a few hundred years ago and nobody ever knew anything about dinosaurs. Not the Romans, not the people that mined, not the people that dug the roads previous to those few hundred years ago. So by creating a false ideology and creating false artifacts, quite literally calling them artifacts, which means they are pieces of art, hence the word, the book, Encyclopedia of Science and Arts, as if to say they're all one and the same book. So the group that created evolution would have come and made a calculation, would have made a calculation to say, how far can we take this? Can we take it all the way to discover past extinct species that never existed? Can we make movies on this? Yes, the answer is yes, 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 yes. If anybody threatens us, we will tell them how stupid they are to question that which is so obvious, because their egos are so great. They'll never turn around and say to us, show us that artifact that you have. I would like to examine the original. I want to see if it is bone. I want to see how you created the rest of that skeleton. And they know the people know they will never do that. And we know they will never do that. So we just simply get away with it again and again and again. That is one system called evolution. From it springs different species of men, different species of birds, different species of animals and things that never existed. And if people accidentally discover that we've been using stone casts of gigantic ferns that already exist in islands like Azores, we just simply say, well, no, this is not from Azores. It's just that once upon a time, Azores was isolated, and therefore it was still harboring these gigantic ferns. And we can get away with it. Even we've told them that these gigantic ferns became extinct, and when people come across them, we get caught out, and we just simply make a storyline. So what I would ask you, if you created the concept, and it's still known as the theory of evolution, how much money do you think you can make out of that single corruption? That's a question. Would it be £50, $50, $500 billion? Can we agree the sums would be enormous? People are very good at putting away their logic, their rationality, and not just simply say, I don't quite understand how this works. And the teachers will give you contrary arguments. And not to look foolish, you would simply agree with it, rather than say, well, how do we know these dinosaur bones exist? Can we go and check it? Oh, no, we cannot. They won't let us into the safes. Well, who has checked it? You will meet a wall of silence. Quite often, the museums will use animals that already exist side by side in an attempt to sell you gigantism in reptiles, so they can pass off the existence of Tree X or Bronchosaurus or Phyllosaurus. We can make movies. We can create professorships, thousands of professors that will teach evolution, and they will teach paleontology, thousands of them, perpetrating, feeding into the system of lies. That is how the banks make money. That is their true currency. Their true currency is their capacity to successfully lie to you. How many can you think of theories that have been made up? How many? That's a question.
I could think of one, let's say NASA, the exploration of space. Would that come under that category?
Yes. What would be very useful for yous out there, you four, to really probe into what I have just said, because nobody has ever revealed this information. Nobody. It is one of the closest guarded secrets in the world, that the money is not generated by fractional banking or quantitative easing. It is generated by the lies that the people believe in, because they will pay money to believe in those lies.
For me, one of the biggest bombs, knowledge bombs that you've just dropped, and it's never really occurred to me before, is about the Romans and the so-called ancient people never picking up on the fact that there's dinosaur bones and whatnot hidden in the dirt, and how they was never on display in their times. And for me, that's one of the biggest indicators to say that, well, why would they never have found them? And, how have they just recently come about? It's, as you say, it's the logic. And once the dots start to join, the logic starts to kick in, and the questions now start to fly around my head and say, well, how did they not find any of these then? How big is this lie?
The lie is big enough to run this planet many times over. I've only given you one example of a museum perpetrating a crime of fraud, that's a mild word, onto the people, generations after generations. Your job would be to look for another example within the realm of what I've said, like geology, before we go on to space, because when you go out of the hemisphere, it becomes more and more unbelievable. So let's stay within the realm of geology, the realm of ideologies, the realm of Sigmund Freud and his role, the role of Charles Darwin. That's where I would pursue, because these things you can qualify for yourself effortlessly.
So are you saying the web of lies have scientists, all these scientists that have done their research, have validated everything in the museums, are all in on it? They're all part of this web of lies, and it's just, there's a great master plan just to keep feeding the people whatever narrative they want?
No, not at all. I'm saying there is a small think tank that comes up with these pretty ideas. Some stick, some don't. A great deal of effort is put into the generation of these false narratives. People's egos, the egos of the professors, who cannot ever bring themselves to believe that they would ever sign a mortgage and give up their power of attorney, they will be in total denial, will do everything and anything to protect the false narrative that they spend half their life pursuing and studying. They do it to themselves. If I throw a bone, does that mean all of yous will have to jump in like dogs and fight for that bone? No. But with these egotistic people that are so self-righteous with the confabulations that have been created, they would attack anybody that would threaten, one, their profession, attack their ego, attack their intelligence, attack their qualification, let alone question it. Try it. Try questioning a qualification of a professor. They'll come at you with everything that they have. Ask them what a mortgage is. Ask them what human is. Ask them to define a single word called THE, the, which is one of the most, if not the most commonly used word in the English language. Ask them to define anything. Their world will begin to collapse. The banking industry, which is another word for the museums, bank this psychology, and they will ask themselves, how much money can we make on the back of people's self-ignorance, self-delusionment? What lengths will they